back to the Sounds of Stadia podcast for episode number 146 of your weekly Stadia podcast, where we round up all of the Stadia and cloud gaming news for your listening or viewing pleasure right here on youtube.com/Helix Cloud Games, or up there in the digital cloud on your podcast preference of choice. We've got a great show lined up for you this week, talking about all of the huge AAA games confirmed and coming to Google Stadia this very year. Plus some other DLC news, some expansions to games, some fond farewells to beloved members of the community, some potential rumours for new games as well, and a lot more. But before we do get into all that, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you are kept in the loop with all of the amazing cloud gaming content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, just like our live streams, our fest looks, our Let's Play series, and all of our wonderful shows like CloudQuest and Talking the PS, our weekly PlayStation podcast. That's up to episode 4. Goes live tomorrow. You're joining myself, Chris, alongside my wonderful co-host once again, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. How warm are you right now?
Very, and public safety announcement: stay inside, play games, don't go outside, it's dangerous.
Stay inside, don't melt.
I was sat outside in a garden for my nephew's first birthday party, so happy birthday, and I was outside for a couple of hours, and literally I have a tan line on my face in the shape of my glasses.
You have to show us now for visual listeners out there.
Okay.
You can't just say that and then not get away with it. So Richie, for audio listeners, he's close to the camera. He's got a big sunglasses line right across the side of his head.
It wasn't my sunglasses, it was these.
Just normal glasses.
Yeah, which is lucky because it means that I can put my glasses back on and hide it.
You can indeed. It looks good. And also,
apart from the fact I've just showed it off to the world on camera.
Yeah, that too. And also, I also know that if you're British and you're out there enjoying the lovely heat wave we're having right now, you also have what we refer to in the northeast as a shantan on your arm. I feel like you should show the people that. There we go. He looks like a drumstick, ladies and gentlemen. Two-tone Richie, rocking it right now.
The camera isn't picking it up as much as it is in real life. In real life, it's quite hilarious.
It is indeed. But they'll have to make do with just you on camera today, Richie, while we round up all of the Stadia and gaming news. But yes, it is very warm out there, so pre-warning, I have ice. Oh no, you know what, scratch that. I did have ice in my drink. It's melted. I was going to say apologies for the clinking of the glass to audio listeners, but that's gone, so you don't have to worry about that, folks. I do have a fan on in the room, so if you hear a little whirring throughout the podcast, I would apologise, but I'm not going to, because it's damn warm in this room, and I either sit here and melt and the podcast doesn't get done, or I sit here with my legs being blown by some nice cool air, because it's all I need right now.
I'm lucky in a way, because this room doesn't get the sun till a bit later in the afternoon, so at the moment it's okay in this room.
Yeah.
But I imagine by the time we finish up CloudQuest, it's going to be sweltering.
Sweltering heat. We do love a good moan about the weather over here. I'm sure there's loads of our audience.
It's too hot and not too cold.
Stateside are thinking, just turn the aircon on. We don't have aircon in the UK outside of commercial buildings and industrial. So here we are anyway to round up all of the sweaty Stadia news this week. Great show lined up, Richie. As I said, plenty to talk about. We've been enjoying plenty of games this month, plenty of game news. Before we get into the news though, have you been checking out any of the pro games that have dropped this week? What have you been playing? Actually, we did a live stream of one, so
it's kind of weird because we're filming things out of order because we've already filmed Talking the PS where you give me a similar question.
True.
And now I've had a couple of days since before we recorded this. I've pretty much just been stuck bouncing between FIFA and Omega Ruby. I'm getting close to the end of Omega Ruby. I've got 8 badges now, so I think once I put that down, I'm going to jump into a new game, and I think I know what it is because I just bought it before I sat down to record this, and I bought it with my Google Play points. So if you're not using ad rewards, you should.
Can I guess? Can I guess what it is?
Yeah, go for it.
Is it Far Cry Blood Dragon?
It is. It's
yes!
Far Cry Blood Dragon.
Damn right. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear
You've been pitching this game to me for years, and it's like, right, it's there. I had like 15 quid of like Google Play points. Spoilers for later in the show. It's $12.99, so it's like, all right, I'm going to drop the money in that. So that's what I'm going to be doing after this show.
You know what? I'm going to buy it right now off the back of that. I've deliberated on it pretty much all weekend since it went live, and you know what? I'm going to do it right now. Live on camera.
Down,
there it is. Blood Dragon.
I sat down prepping for this show, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll buy that.
Yeah, well,
that might be the next game. Chris keeps telling me to play it, so even if I don't play it now, it's in my library for whenever I decide to.
Well, I have £17.59 worth of player points, so I was umming and ahhing about what game was it last week? One, I can't remember what it was that was in the sale, and then like most sales, it ended, and I missed the cut-off date, so there we go. Far Cry Blood Dragon. Yeah. I'll be jumping back into that beautiful game as well. And yeah, we'll get to that in the news. We did also play Five Nights at Freddy's, one of the pro games for July. If you haven't claimed your games already, what are you doing, man? It's the 10th. Actually, it's the 11th when you're listening to this of July. Get claiming. Richie, we had a great time with Freddy Fazbear and his creepy, I don't know what it was, like a musical arena. We couldn't quite figure it out. But
yeah, it's like a kid's place and a Chuck E. Cheese style place. Did
we have some jump scares?
We did.
It got us a few
We had
times.
a lot of frustration on my part.
Yeah, there was a few bits we got. And again, I know it's aimed at a younger audience, but we struggled with certain parts, I think. But yeah, some of the character creation and that, not character creation, the design of some of the characters that you come across, very creepy. There's a very sinister style to some of them, which I appreciate for the type of game it is. But go check that out. It's available now on the channel. Just like if you are a Helix Hero, one of the members who support us a little bit extra, from as little as 99p, you get exclusive perks and early access to some content, like our Talking the PS show, which is actually goes live on Tuesdays. However, we recorded it this past Friday, so you actually got it super early this week, earlier than ever before. In fact, just like you also get an episode of CloudQuest up to 6 days early. And Richie, this week, we've got a good episode lined up. I mean, they're all good, but we've got a good topic lined up for CloudQuest this week. Tell the folks what they could get right now if they join the channel as a member.
So, we're going to be looking into an update on what the Game of the Year situation for Stadia. What games have come out this year that look like could be Game of the Year contenders, what's on Stadia that could be a Game of the Year contender, and what do we expect going forward for the rest of the year.
Certainly. So very exciting, and do let us know in the comments below what you think your favourite game of the year will be on Google Stadia. Right then, let's get it, before it gets too hot, before the sun is high in the sky, Richie.
Yeah.
Let's get into the
super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
You know what I really like when we do the news? When we do it on Talking the PS and Rob still doesn't really know what to do. He kind of hears us say it, and then we both chime with the news, and he kind of sits there and goes, should I do this bit? Because we've never quite explained to him that everybody says the news in chorus.
Yeah. I mean, there was for a long time we did try always sync up, but recording through Discord makes it almost impossible.
It does indeed. But yeah, go watch Talking the PS. Look at the panic on his face when we do the introduction to the news. Just see, because I see it every week and it makes me chuckle inside.
I don't. I've got like Discord off to a side monitor, so I'm not usually directly looking at you when I'm talking to you. And also, I'm turning the tongue twister, so it's like
you have to get.
I've got my mind on other things.
I would like to think out there, everybody, the hundreds and hundreds of people who watch and listen along, they sing along with the jingle. They like it, even if they can't quite get the tongue twister. I couldn't even say that. They say the news.
People sat at work just going, the news. Just quietly
under the breath. Let us know if you say the news out there. But first story of the week: Saints Row, the long-awaited back and forth meandering tussle of is it coming, is it not coming, is it coming, is it not coming. It's been rated, but it's not coming. Here's a press kit, but it's not coming. Will they say something? Well, you know what? Finally, the folks over at Saints Row have indeed confirmed via Twitter, tweeting out this last July the 8th, a new platform has entered the game. No PC, no problem. Saints Row will launch on Google Stadia, day and date, August 23rd, with other platforms. So we finally have confirmation. There's another AAA game coming to Stadia this year, following Rainbow Six Extraction back in January. I'm excited. It's going to fill the void of Grand Theft Auto on the platform. It's a day and date AAA game. Richie, it's finally here. Joy to the world. We have a AAA title lined up for this summer. How do you feel?
First of all, I think this is a fantastic news that the game is finally coming. There's been a lot of speculation that we've covered, like the bits of code, press pack releases, and all sorts of stuff that strongly suggests it's coming. It still comes back to that point, though: is why didn't they just tell us before now? Because we knew it was coming to other platforms. It's one of them things you just. I don't understand the logic there, because
just spit it out.
Yeah, I don't want to labour the point too much because we've covered it for 2.5 years now. But it's like, if you're excited for this game coming, and it's coming to PlayStation, it's coming to Xbox, it's coming to PC, you've probably already committed to buying it on one of them by now. So Stadia, just and now Stadia is like,
well, there are.
If you're a really die-hard Saints Row fan, you may have already lost your chance.
Still, that's not the point though this time round. So
Yeah.
at least for us Stadia players and our community out there, it's a big. It's just a win. It feels like a win. It feels like a rare win for the first time this year where
It does.
finally it's coming. I've seen loads of people kicking off on social media that it's not coming to Steam because it's an Epic Games one, and people actually lamenting the fact that it's on Stadia and not Steam, as though it's somehow Stadia's fault that it's not on Steam, which is hilarious.
I really don't get that argument, because like I see PC gaming as a whole as a single entity, whether it's Steam or an Epic or Origin or whatever EA calling that now. It's all one big collection of ecosystems for me. So it's like, yeah, just because you've bought it on from one launcher rather than another, I don't really see much of a difference. But I know there's diehard people out there who are polar opposite to that view. But
you know what? As a Stadia player and as a Stadia fan, I'm excited for this one personally. We'll never probably know why it took so long. Like, realistically, all of this could have been navigated around by just having it announced day one when it was announced for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC prior, instead of having these months of back and forth. I'm sure there's reasons, whether it was porting, financial reasons, agreements, sponsorships, whatever that might be. If you look on Saints Row website right now, Stadia still isn't even mentioned. Like, if you go to the pre-order section, because it's not available for pre-order yet, I'm guessing it will be. I wouldn't be surprised if we got a Stadia blog post this Tuesday, because we are due one. That will have a big blowout page written up of Saints Row, and pre-orders are available now. In fact, you know what? Pre-orders will probably go up before the blog post does. That's the nature of how stuff rolls out. Anyway.
Maybe I'm being just too pessimistic with this. Maybe the reason was they always wanted to launch a day and date, but weren't sure they'd be able to guarantee day and date till later in the development cycle.
Yeah, quite possibly.
So they've held off on the announcement in the hopes that it's a day and date announcement rather than, oh, it's just coming. Because if they don't go day and date, then the question goes, when will it come to Stadia? It's coming later. How much later?
Yeah.
So it might just be in case of, we're just going to hold our cards a bit closer to our chest till we know it's there, till we know we're at a state to bring it.
And we've known this. We've been conditioned to think this anyway. So again, it's hard not to think why they wouldn't explain it earlier. I understand the reasonings behind it. Oh, we think we understand the reasonings behind it. But you know what? It's coming. Day and date. It's a big win, because I think in a year that's meandered, as I said, back and forth, and we've not had much on the horizon, if we're honest with ourselves, to look forward to. This will be one that I'll be buying day one on Stadia checkout. I'm a fan of Grand Theft Auto. I haven't played it in a while, because like most people, I played it back in 2013 when GTA 5 first came out, and I've not went back to it 7-8 years later. However, a new refreshed look. So I enjoy what I play of the Saints Row game, but I've never been there day one at a launch of one. I've picked them up on a free. I've watched my brother play them loads, but I've never been kind of ready to commit day one. And the fact that it's a reboot, reimagining of Saints Row has me a little bit excited that I can get it. I feel like I can get in as a newcomer without like a big commitment to the prior titles.
Yeah, I've always felt Saints Row is more of like a AA slapstick version of Grand Theft Auto, where this one actually looks like it's pitching towards that AAA. That it's not got just be a GTA clone. It's its own thing. It's got its own legacy. It's going to start something bigger. I'm probably not going to play it, but that's because I'm not really a fan of Grand Theft Auto either. With Grand Theft Auto, I'll buy a Grand Theft Auto game. I'll spend a couple of hours like finding a bike and just messing around with some jumps and stuff, and then I'll just bounce out of it. Yeah, the stories and stuff of Grand Theft Auto have never really gripped me. So,
well,
I appreciate it from afar.
I want to jump in because I want to check it out. You can jump in on stream with me, Richie, and we'll see what shenanigans we can get up to. So, like I said, it's a new reimagining. It's set in Santo Alesso, a vibrant fictional city in the heart of America's Southwest, and a world rife with crime where lawless factions fight for power. A group of young friends embark on their own criminal venture as they rise to the top and to make a bid to become self-made. Experience the biggest and best Saints Row playground ever created. The unique, sprawling world of Santo Alesso is the backdrop for a wild, larger-than-life sandbox of thrilling side hustles, criminal ventures, and blockbuster missions as you shoot, drive, and wingsuit your way to the top. So, well, I'm sure we'll hear more about this now. Hopefully, we'll get the, is it like a boss? Be a boss? Make your own boss? They put out the kind of create your own character.
Yeah, the character
demo
creator.
thing. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see if we can actually get that. Boss Factory. That's it. Yeah. Hopefully we'll get to see that on Stadia at some point as kind of like a demo trial thing. It's obviously set up elsewhere. If not, go check it out elsewhere. But Saints Row in the pipeline. And you know what's actually interesting with this announcement is because it's been delayed so long, the turnaround time is actually so short. We're obviously the middle of July as it stands. It's coming out next month, which is, again, that's the one saving grace of a stealth drop or a stealth reveal, is that you're not waiting very long until the actual announcement. Do I prefer that?
You don't go through that cycle. You don't go through that cycle where you get the announcement, get really hyped, and you just the interest tails off. Mm-hmm. That's what I found with like something like Death Stranding, like where we heard about the game so well in advance, but even right up to it, the game was not clear what it was. So by the time the game came out, I was no longer interested.
Yeah, exactly.
I should try that on PlayStation Plus actually.
Mm-hmm. Now, it'll be interesting because Saints Row games have gone pro as well. Imagine if this was... Do you think this has a chance of being either a banging day one pro game, Richie, or what about a Premier Edition promotion? Not that they do them anymore, but some kind of pack-in. We had Cyberpunk. We had... What was the second game? Why can't I... Oh, Resident Evil Village. We haven't had one for a while, but we also don't have any Premier Editions out there in the wild either, so... Let's face it, this is probably the biggest game on the platform this year.
Yeah, there's still lots of Chromecasts and lots of like controllers, so it's like the Premier Edition in itself doesn't exist, but the Play and Watch bundle exists.
Mm-hmm. What do you think then? Do you think we'll see something?
I don't think so. I think that was back in the days when Google were trying really hard to get people into the platform, and I just don't think they're spending the money on it now. Okay. So I think they've got the game coming over. Mm-hmm. I don't know whether it's however that's happened, it's happened, but I just think it's not. It doesn't feel like the move that Google Stadia will be making in 2022. It feels like a 2020 kind of move when the platform was still like a really high priority for Google, that they were really trying to push it.
Well, this might very well be the turning point. I said another turning point. I said a meandering river earlier on. Rivers have many lefts and rights, ups and downs, depending. This could signal a sign of reinvestment. This could be the next pivot onto next. Again, we could. I was actually at a point, and you'd probably be able to sense it throughout the episodes if you listen back and look back. That just this year was just going to go out like without anything. Yeah, it was just going to get. We were going to be sat there at Christmas doing episode 170, whatever it is, and we're doing like our year in review for Stadia. And all we were going to be able to talk about was Rainbow Six Extraction was the biggest title that happened nearly 12 months prior.
Yeah.
And great pro games have been fantastic.
Potentially but Pandora. What do you call it?
Avatar Frontiers.
Avatar, yeah.
And now we're not. So happy days, folks. Get your pre-orders in where they inevitably go up at some point, probably this week when the blog post gets typed up and sent. But great news, we've got another AAA game landing on the platform later this year, and you don't have long to wait. Do let us know in the comments below if you'll be checking out this Saints Row reboot, and if you're excited to see some new signs of life on the platform.
What I want to add, before we move on, I think my pessimism on this is probably a bit more that I'm not particularly interested in the game myself. If this was a game that I was really excited for, I think I'd be a lot more optimistic in this news. So I think I've maybe just been a bit harsh on it there.
Well, it's all right because we've got another game that I know you're thrilled to play to talk about. Up next, we also had a confirmation via a Ubisoft showcase stream this past week. Skull and Bones. We've mentioned it many, many times on the podcast in previous weeks with game trailer leaks, ESRB ratings, refreshers, tweets, all of the sort. And we had a showcase event this week. Now, what the showcase event did that we didn't already know, funny enough, even though I very much believe you and me, Richie, have been acting as though we knew it was coming, it was never actually confirmed for Google Stadia. I joked last week, Skull and Bones was announced prior to Stadia's existence, so back in 2017. And you and me, for the last few weeks, have kind of gone back and forth, just, I think, presuming it was always going to come, because Ubisoft have been such fantastic partners for Stadia. And it was almost like a bit of a relief to see the logo at the end of the showcase and be like, oh, thanks,
yeah,
it is coming. Great.
I think it's one of them. We made the assumption that, it'll come, it just hasn't been announced yet. It's Ubisoft, it'll come. And then I think we forgot that it hadn't been announced.
Yeah, it hasn't. So they showed off a brand new trailer introducing one of the characters, and it shows you essentially washed up on a beach. You're stranded. You have to essentially fight for survival. You've got to make your own boat on this deserted island. You've got to hunt for food and skins and stuff. Like classical Ubisoft kind of Far Cry elements, I would say. From there, you find your way to a pirate's port, and you essentially have to build up what they're referring to as your infamy. in order to become the most feared pirate on the high seas and take on missions, challenges, take down other pirates, take on navies, attack castles, naval combat, all of the kind of stuff we knew we were going to expect from Black Flag. It's been confirmed, it's been locked in, it's going to arrive on PlayStation, PC, Xbox, Stadia and Luna November the 8th with crossplay and cross-progression as well, using the good old Ubisoft Connect set up on there. So if you've got a Ubisoft Connect account, happy days. And it is also coming to Ubisoft Plus. So, Richie, we discussed this on Talking the PS, which if you want some thoughts on that and some thoughts from Rob, that's available tomorrow on Free Feed. It's available now to our members. Skull and Bones, happy days again. This is the second AAA title coming to Stadia, confirmed this year. So, Richie, we went through such a drought all spring. We get to summer, and we literally get 2 announcements within 2 days of each other confirming 2 AAA games. Skull and Bones from Ubisoft. Where are you sitting on this fishy adventure?
I think in general the game looks really good for someone else. No, I think it is just like I'm being very open. I'm not a multiplayer guy. It's not how I interact with games. I prefer single-player, story-driven games. I like to get lost in that world, lost with the characters, and truly immerse myself. Mm-hmm. I find multiplayer, persistent world experiences have, even when they try to do that, because they are more social. Like, when I'm sat there playing a game with you, I'm not as invested in what's going on in the game, in the story, because I'm having a good time hanging out with my friends.
Yeah.
So if that's what you want from gaming, I think you're going to have a really cool time with this game.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like the sound of the PvP, though. The PvP just sounds like designed for people to grief each other.
Yeah, so some of the details to clarify for folks out there, they kind of... And they did a big announcement. They said how they've took on board all of the feedback over the 7-8 years in development that this game has been. And they're going to be running 2 servers. So you can play on a PvP server, which means there's a bunch of random other people out there on the high seas, and they can attack you and destroy your world at any given moment. There's also private servers.
That is actually encouraged, because in order to upgrade your ship and your weapons, you need to get loot. To get loot, you need to destroy other ships from either the privateers, which is their NPC boats, or other players.
Yeah, it's encouraging you to go destroy people.
Yeah.
Essentially. But there will be a private server, so if you're one of those people, they did emphasise that you can play the game solo, but they also encourage you to
every
play
single
with
time they brought up, yes, you can play this solo, but we strongly encourage. So I think it is what it is. It's not designed. It's not a single player game. It's just a game that can be played single player.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm certainly streaming it.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. There's a couple of little bits that we'll get into. We got into it on Talking the PS as well. And again, similar to what you said about Saints Row, Richie, I don't want to feel overly harsh on this game, but if I wasn't a content creator, and I'm, like you guys know, our audience know, I'm a huge Ubisoft fan, and this game would have been right up my street if it had some kind of narrative thread throughout it. And they show you the character. They say, yes, you can go and interact with people. You've got the pirate hub where you go get all your customization icons and stuff. But when they said they took on board all the feedback, and all of the early feedback was, we want more Black Flag, and it feels like they've still not given me any reason to care about my pirate.
The only feedback I can tell that they've taken is that you're not only just playing as the boat, that you can get off your ship, you can board others, so I'm guessing there'll be some Assassin's Creed style like action combat when you're on board, like you have in things like Black Flag.
Yeah.
And then when you turn up the port, you can walk around. I think that's the feedback. Most of the feedback I think they've taken from their own executives who want to push Ubisoft to be more games as a servicey stuff.
Where's the quartz?
And if you're into that, that's absolutely fine. Again, yeah. I think we both have the same way we're going to approach this. We'll have the most fun playing this with you guys in our community streams.
100%.
I want to form an armada, the Helix Armada.
Yes, we'll pillage the high seas out there on the Indian Ocean. And again, the game looks beautiful. I enjoyed Black Flag, but I didn't enjoy the naval combat in Black Flag as much as the game. And I do really feel like having like a quartermaster just off screen somewhere going, let's go pillage the high seas and do whatever they intend to do. It's just going to be me looking at the front of a boat with waves, and then camera right, fire cannons, turn the camera left, fire cannons, everything's reloading, I've been rammed from the side, now there's a storm, I've either won or I've lost, and I get some more digital numbers jump up. Like, what am I doing that for? If I need to get to the height of infamy, I want that to tie into a campaign where I'm going to challenge the Blackbeard, the biggest pirate threat out there, to rule the
Pirates
ocean.
Creed.
Yeah, I want Pirates Creed. I want to look at a map and see the areas that I dominate, the areas that I've not found yet, the areas that belong to other influences like the British Navy or whatever it might be. And I want to challenge them, but I'd love to see characters come up. And the vibe I'm getting from the trailers and the hub world, it strikes me more of Riders Republic for pirates rather than Black Flag. And I get a feeling, I said it on Talking the PS and I want to reiterate, I feel like the biggest thing that's going to harm this game is all of the reviews are going to go, this is a solid 7 and 8, it looks gorgeous, plays really fun. If you want to play a good pirate game, go play a Black Flag. And that, I feel like, is going to be the damning line for this game, is go play a Black Flag if you want to play a good pirate game.
With this being a multiplayer experience, this is basically an MMO. Mm-hmm. It needs to have that critical mass of players to sustain itself. And we still don't really know how much content there's actually going to be there. They're talking about loads of different ships and things that you can upgrade your ships. But it's like they haven't really talked too much about what like the quest systems are going to be, what the narrative hooks are going to be in the world, anything like that. It's kind of still a bit missing. I hope it does well. It definitely has the potential, and they also haven't talked about things like DLC, what the DLC is looking like, what loot box situations, what season pass situations, what NFTs.
Yeah.
It's obvious that they did not want to talk about that stuff.
Yeah, with the
during
kind
the presentation. But if there's that stuff that's going to be there, you almost need to rip off the band-aid and just go, look, guys, it's here.
Yeah, I think with it being a re-reveal, they've kind of like tempered expectations with what's going to be shown. We should also point out, remember last week Ubisoft confirmed that they will be at Gamescom this year, which is still prior to launch. So I'm guessing we are going to see a trickle out of more news and content. And you know what? I'd love them to surprise me and go, here's a story trailer. And there's actually this whole campaign that's the underthread narrative to this online world. But
that'd be great.
It has to compete with Sea of Thieves as well.
Yeah, it does. I'd actually, when you say compete, I said this on Talking the PS, it doesn't have to compete with Sea of Thieves. It has to blow it out the water, as far as I'm concerned. Because Ubisoft, they're kind of in a bit of
rough seas
unfavourable position. Yeah, they're in some rough seas, some choppy waters, and this game, I think it really needs to. If this game is full of microtransactions and NFTs and stuff, it is going to sink so fast. Like, can you capsize a frigate? Because Ubisoft have the potential to do that.
They do indeed. Another point we should bring up as well is the price. So it's marked at £70. Obviously included with Ubisoft Plus. I think you and me will most certainly be checking this out on the monthly subscription model, which I think is probably for the betterment of this. I think it's pushing people towards that. If
things like season passes and stuff are included in your Ubisoft Plus subscription, then that is clearly the smart way to do it, which is probably what Ubisoft want you to do. They want you to just get the Ubisoft Plus subscription, and then if your Ubisoft Plus subscription just gets you access to this game for the link for the game, plus all the extra content that comes out, maybe not things like cosmetics and stuff, because I highly doubt they do that. They want to have another revenue stream.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope it does really well, but because it is a games as a service stuff, and they haven't talked about the bad side of games as a service stuff, it still remains to be seen.
Well, once again, we won't have too long to wait, even though we have waited many, many years for this title. November 8th is the confirmed release date, of course. We'll no doubt hear more about upcoming events and details to do with this pirate thing. But as far as we're concerned, it's another game coming to Stadia this very winter period. I apologise for that terrible joke.
You should.
But as I said, there's many more things in the pipeline. We do have the confirmation from Ubisoft as well that there is a Ubisoft Forward following on from Gamescom. So we reported on it last week that Ubisoft would be at Gamescom this year, but they then since came out and tweeted saying, save these dates. One of them was the Skull and Bones showcase that we just discussed. The next one was we have the first Ubisoft Forward of 2022 dropping September 10th, 12 p.m. Pacific time and 9 p.m. Central time. We'll no doubt be watching along live right here on Helix Cloud Games. But it's nice to see that Ubisoft have they've weathered the year a little bit. They've not had many big announcements. They've not had really any games come out bar Extraction so far. Obviously, they've had the little ones where all the champions came out. They knocked Hyperscape on the head. They're closing down servers for old games. They announced Splinter Cell without any concept art or any actual news. However, I do feel like they've been quiet Ubisoft for probably the longest they ever have been. And we know they've got announcements for The Division. They've got Heartland stuff coming. They've got X-Defiant that's still on the back burner. They've got the next Assassin's Creed to be announced in September. This Ubisoft Forward is in September. Why would they not want to lean onto their biggest franchise, arguably? There's a lot of wheels in the works at Ubisoft. And I think, as we said, they've been going through a bit of a rough time of late with their focus on monetization and
their
games
decisions.
service. Yeah, their decisions. Of course, they put themselves, in theory, up for sale earlier in the year as well when all the buyouts were happening. So it'll be nice for them to figuratively steady the ship a little bit. And we've got Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, still slated, we think, for the back end of this year. I think you mentioned on Talking the PS about will they cannibalise their own sales and announce Avatar for like the same week as Skull and Bones? Wouldn't surprise us. Wouldn't surprise us.
I absolutely 100% expect them to. Bear in mind that God of War week as well.
Yeah, it's God of War week, so what better time to put out another title than the same week two other AAA huge games drop. But at least on Stadia, we'll have them all. We'll have to imagine if we have to choose between Avatar and Skull and Bones, because
I'd lean towards Skull and Bones in that, actually.
Would you?
Because I'm not strongly interested in either of them, but I do want to play Skull and Bones with the community on the stream. Where Avatar, I've no real fondness for the franchise at all. I haven't seen enough of the game to get me interested in it from purely a game point of view.
Well, I was really sold on Avatar because I think when it was first announced, I think I hadn't not long got back from Disney World, Florida, and I went on the ride there, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Like it's like the most modern ride I've probably ever been on in terms of like VR and effects and style and thematic setup. Beautiful game. Maybe want to go watch the movies again. Of course, we've got 3 new James Cameron movies coming out, and I was sold on the game. And then I found out it was first person, and it was more Far Cry than it was Assassin's Creed. And I was like, not Assassin's Creed in the term of you're not killing people.
It could do really, really well. Although it does feel like a mistake with a game that's centered around like the Na'vi and that world. Being able to see and customize your character could be a really cool thing. Yeah, odd choice, but we'll see more about that. Again, how many hours do people spend in like things like Skyrim customizing the character, then play like 100 hours in the game in first person?
You get to see them in the mirror once or twice.
I know I do that, so
it is funny. But we know about it. Skull and Bones confirmed. The Ultimate Edition is available now for $100 on the Stadia Store if you're interested in that type of thing. But you know what? We've got cheap games to play, Richie, to dive into, and we finally got confirmation via a blog post this week from Stadia that Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon has finally dropped on the platform. It's at a terrific price right now of £12.99. I think it's $12.99 as well. I don't think there's an actual currency conversion going on.
$14.99 USD according to the community blog post.
Fair enough. Well, at the end of the 17th century, tales of the legendary heist attracted young outcasts from all over the world. That's Skull and Bones I'm reading from, Richie. I don't know why.
Yep.
But it could play. I was going to say the 17th century. Scratch that. Let's go forward a little bit in time. The year is 2007. This is how old this game is. It is the future.
Oh, wow.
You are Sergeant Rex Cult Mark IV Cyber Commando. The year is 2007 and the Earth has been ravaged by a nuclear war which erupted in the 90s. The East versus West conflict has raged for generations and humanity continues to struggle to progress after a disastrous decade. New paths for peace must be found and the US cyborg army may have just found a solution. A powerful bioweapon on a distant island. Your mission is to gather information and figure out what the hell is going on. This is a kick-ass cyber shooter.
I just had to check something because when it's saying 2007, it is the future. It's like, I didn't think Far Cry 3 was that old. This game was brought out in 2013 initially. Yeah. So it knows what it's about. It
is. It's taking an 80s neon aesthetic, almost what we've seen in every Cyberpunk game for the last 5 years, actually. And it did it first, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a big fan of Far Cry, if you're a fan of 80s, this totally doubles down on it because it's tongue-in-cheek humour. It knows what... I mean, come on, there's a freaking T-Rex that shoots lasers out of its mouth. It knows what it's doing.
Yeah. Reading from the Wikipedia page for the game, Ubisoft described the game as an an 80s VHS vision of the future where the player must get the girl, kill the bad guys, and save the world.
Yeah.
It's going to be over the top. It's going to be fantastic. You know what? I bought it because you recommended it to me. You literally bought it during the show.
Yeah, I have, yeah.
And now we're talking about it, I'm getting excited.
You should.
I wasn't excited before. I was interested. Now I'm actually getting excited. It's like...
You should enjoy it.
Let's hurry up the show so I can
Let's hurry up the show, yeah. What was a nice little Easter egg for this game as well is to add to the kind of 80s kind of human resistance nostalgia is the main character is voiced by Michael Beeman, who was Kyle Reese in the original Terminator. So you've got that kind of undertone of like he's already been there and done this in Terminator, fighting cyborgs for the future.
I'm guessing there's loads like things like Arnie references, Sylvester Stallone, these sort of people. The Expendables. Think of the Expendables films and that list of actors.
Yeah, it's absolutely that. But again, it's all just wacky Far Cry fun. Take some bases, fight some bosses, avoid the blood dragons until you're powerful enough to fight them because they will mess you up, essentially. But yes, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon out now. Of course, if you are a gamer out there who purchased Far Cry 6, the Gold Edition, the one that came with Far Cry Blood Dragon free, you should be able to claim it now as part of that package. I tweeted at Ubisoft about 2 months ago to say this came out in December for other platforms, so we're going to see it on Stadia anytime soon because Far Cry 6 purchasers paid the hard-earned cash for this, and you're kind of holding off on a big element of the season pass by not giving them Far Cry 3, and they said they didn't have any news to share with me at this moment in time, as per usual. But yeah, it's took them 7 months to get it out, but it's here. Fill your boots, and it's at a decent price as well.
Faster than Resident Evil.
Well, that is true, yeah. It's sooner than Resident Evil RE-verse. But we digress. More games coming, thanks to Ubisoft. It's a good one, and I'm looking forward to hearing what your take is on it, Richie. It's not too long as well, so it's kind of a good one for, I think, if you're and ahhing about what to play. I'd probably say you can wrap up the story in 5 hours or something like that. It's not overly long.
It's quite short.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was just a spin-off of Far Cry 3, so it was never like a fully intended game. Moving on, though, we have another Ubisoft game, which we discussed a few weeks back. It was rated on ESRB. It's also been confirmed now. Valiant Hearts, The Great War from Ubisoft Montpellier is arriving July 15th, so at the time of listening, folks, this very Friday, not too long to wait, or, of course, it can be claimed as part of Ubisoft Plus. Valiant Hearts The Great War is the story of 4 crossed destinies and a broken love in a world torn apart. Dive into a 2D animated comic book adventure mixing exploration, action and puzzles. Lost in the middle of the trenches, play as one of these 4 strangers and relive the war and help a young German soldier find his love. I've played this one. I think I got this on PlayStation Plus way back on the PlayStation 3. It tells a really heartfelt, emotional story through the Great War, World War One, of course, showing it interesting enough from all sides. So it's not just what we would refer to as our side, the Allies. It literally shows you stories from the Russians, German side, and how realistically no one ever wants to go to war. They're honest with themselves, and it tells you sad stories and happy endings and everything mixed in between that. But definitely worthwhile. Not a huge game. It was one of Ubisoft's UbiArt indie titles that they invested in a few years back, which I wish they did more of.
Yeah,
we've seen EA have success with like It Takes Two and such by just giving a little smaller studio a bit of cash.
I was thinking this game feels like something that will like line up well with something like Child of Light. Very different game, but you know that kind of sleeper hit in the Ubisoft catalogue that like reviewed really well. That is quite a beloved game.
Yeah,
but then it's been largely ignored since.
Yeah, I mean, the smaller titles, it's one of those, they always win like loads of like best artistic choice or most compelling story at the game. They never win Game of the Year, they're never in that conversation. They never sell millions, but they're always accredited to being fantastic narratives and tell a meaningful story. And
they're good things to have in your back catalogue, like Ubisoft.
They certainly are. The blog goes into great depth about talking about features and points and stuff. I've noticed the blog post actually says release timing now, instead of release date, release timing. Just a little subtle change in wording for the release date. I don't know whether that gives them more freedom to move the date if they need to. But either way, Valiant Hearts, The Great War will be available this Friday to claim and play. And I definitely recommend you check it out. If you're after something wacky and zany, go check out Far Cry Blood Dragon. If you're after something relaxing and soulful, go check out Valiant Hearts, The Great War. But I think that's it for our new games this week, Richie. We've got quite a few, 2 AAA games and a bunch of other ones. However, it is time to say a fond farewell to another member of the Stadia community. This week, over on Reddit, Chris, the community manager who took over from Grace a few months back, has announced he is leaving. Of course, you'll know him as Chris from Google. Very few of you follow him on Twitter, although I'm sure he's going to get a ton more followers now, thanks to everybody retweeting and telling them they love him and he's about to leave. But reading direct from his post over on the official community Reddit for Stadia, Chris reads as well, "Dearest Stadians, I'm overcome with emotions writing this post, but I'd like to let everyone in our community know that today is my last day at Stadia. Working with the Stadia community over the last 2.5 years has been an incredible experience, but I'm excited to start a new chapter in my career working within a new role. While my next steps take me away from Google, I will continue being a player and a supporter of Stadia in the future. I will always treasure the experiences I gained, the friends I've made, and the games we've played together. One of my fondest memories was watching the Stadia community thoroughly dismantle the Stadia team in Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah, we did.
Which we were a part of. We took them down easily, piece by piece. Continuing on, you're in good hands with Dan. Dan has many years of gaming experience, and I could tell immediately upon meeting him that he'd be an intelligent, compassionate addition to the Stadia team. Dan will truly value your feedback and support our shared mission of making Stadia the best place to play. The rest of the Stadia team remains just as committed to the same goal. I will miss you all so dearly, but fear not, this is not goodbye, it's only farewell. See you on Stadia, friends. Gratefully yours, Chris from Google." So, farewell, Chris, from myself, Richie, Tom, the rest of the Helix Cloud Games crew, and I'm sure our community as well. You've done a terrific job. Grace always had some big shoes to fill in, but you did it alongside her the whole way. So now there's 2 pairs of shoes for Dan. I'm guessing Dan from Google will refer to him as, to step into. But
I hope he has 4 feet.
He might. You never know. You never know. No judgment here. But thank you to Chris, I think, from all of us here. You've done a great job. Terrific stuff for keeping the community engaged and building something that didn't exist prior to 2019. So farewell. See you in the clouds. Thank you very much for all you've done. And I'm sure everyone will echo that sentiment as well.
I must admit, I did enjoy when his favourite moment was us destroying him.
Yeah, well,
shout out to Meg, Alex, and Vet as well, because it wasn't just me and you.
It wasn't just me and you. Yeah, we got a few licks in, but we wouldn't have done it without the amazing team, just like the amazing community out there. So thank you very much for everybody's support along the way, and farewell, Chris, on Ventures New. This isn't a negative story. We had this one, Grace left, where it's the reality is people leave and progress on in their careers, and that's part of life. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't have to be twisted into a negative thing. It doesn't mean everyone's jumping ship. It generally just means someone who has a career has decided to do something different for whatever circumstances. It's their own personal decision. Don't panic. It's a happy time. Farewell, Chris. Take care and enjoy playing games. That is all. Leave your well wishes in the comments below if you wish. Moving back to some game news, Richie. Nacon had a Nacon Connect. I'm guessing Stadia Connect isn't a thing, so they can just jump in there and steal the Connect moniker. Nacon did a stream of different titles and games showing off various things. We got new game announcements that I've never heard, I've never seen of before. We won't linger too long on them because they're not confirmed for Stadia. Crown Wars, Raven's Watch, Survival Game, Paradise Project, Gangs of Sherwood. Read into them what you will. Sports franchises, Session Skate Sim, World Rally Championship Generations, Test Drive Ultimate, and a bunch of other action adventure things. Blood Bowl 3, Hell Is Us, etc, etc. We'll cover them more. With the Nacon news, we keep coming back to it on the show because we know Nacon were a porting publishing partner of Google Stadia. They were showcased at the Google for Games broadcast earlier in the year, and they brought out a title not too long ago. But one of our friends, in fact, Lee Reed over at Stadia Source, the ever reliable Lee Reed, tweeted out the other day, Richie. I don't know if you saw this one, but his sources are telling him that despite Nacon being a low-key porting partner, Roguebook, which of course came to Stadia Pro this month, wasn't made using the low change porting. So that means whatever Nacon is working on with low change porting, we haven't seen it yet. So a lot of people, myself included, figured that Roguebook was very much going to be that game. However, this brings me back to this Nacon Connect and the stuff they showed off, and now we've got a bunch more things. We get to put our tinfoil hats on, Richie, and think what's happening. Is Gollum Lord of the Rings The Golem coming out 1st of September, confirmed this past week also, day before my birthday. Will that be the low change porting title, Richie?
As a Lord of the Rings fan, I hope so.
It'll be another big game for Stadia this summer.
It almost feels like a low change partner, an early adopter, might also be a pro game as well. So that would be perfect for us.
Oh, I can't.
But they did talk about a lot of games in the showcase.
They did,
despite spending the first half an hour literally talking about absolutely nothing.
They did. I watched it. 20 minutes in, I just wanted them to get on with it. It was a bad approach. For anyone who didn't watch it, they essentially had two guys in the studio, which were very likeable guys. The studio, the set looked fantastic. And then they went on to show us a bingo card of images from the games they were about to announce. And the two hosts took guesses at what they thought the images were that they were about to reveal, even though they know what they're about to reveal because they're the ones hosting the show.
It might have been a cool concept if they did like one card, then show the trailer, then one card, then show the trailer, then one card, show the trailer. But it was like, no, he's half an hour. I only watched the first half an hour while I was at work. But then it's like, I need to go back to work. I've got things to do. And then I was just busy. So I didn't watch the full showcase. And if they got rid of that first half hour, I would have watched all the trailers then and there. So it's to their own detriment as well.
Yeah. Out of the games announced, looking through, because they did announce quite a lot for a small publisher.
Yeah.
Things that are due imminently, I feel like one that Stadia would want to go for if it was up to Google would be the World Rally Championship, because they do love a good racing game. And I think with the lack of Grid Legends and the lack of Formula 1 22 coming, I feel like they don't have as many in the pipeline as they would have done. So I think World Rally Championship, which I played a few in yesteryear, out of the list they've shown and the ones that are due out imminently, I feel like that might be one that we'll see on Stadia, which I would like to see. I used to like the World Rally Championship games.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I've got my eye on that Session Skate sim game.
Mm-hmm.
But I need to see more of it because literally the trailer I'm watching is just very dark.
It does. Yeah.
It's not very well. It's like you're skating at night, but it doesn't give you a good idea of how the game will control or anything. But I do like a skateboarding game, and it could be a non-Activision equivalent to Tony Hawk, which would be a decent gap for Stadia. To be honest, it'll fill a gap in the library. Yeah,
well, looking at the Session Skate Sim is scheduled for September 22nd. World Rally Championship is set for October 13th, and Golem is the 1st of September. So they're the only three games that were shown off that actually have dates this year. So if Stadia were going to partner with them and show them off at the Google for Games session a few months back, you've got to imagine, I think we've seen a game from every one of those porting partners. And then when Roguebook came out, that's why everyone was like, oh, this is the game. And it wasn't. Yeah. So we shall see. Just to cover it off as well, they did announce some, what I would refer to as quite large titles. Bit dated from the content, but we are talking about Blood Dragon and all 80s nostalgia. So the biggest other ones that stood out for me was RoboCop Rogue City. They showed off a trailer. They're going to get Peter Weller, the original actor who played him in the 1980s hit movie. 32 years later, he's coming back to Detroit to basically kick some ass. And they showed off very much like a city-inspired game. RoboCop rocks up as he does. Dead or Alive, you come on with me kind of shtick. And it looks like it's going to be a kind of open world RoboCop game. Where do you sit on that one, Richie? You a big fan of RoboCop, or?
I enjoyed it as a kid. You know, one of them films you watch as a kid,
and you should be watching
you're too young
as a kid.
to really. Yeah, but you're too young. Realistically, you're too young to kind of comprehend what an IP is or anything. It's just this is a fun thing I've seen, and that's all RoboCop ever is to me. I don't really have any solid nostalgia for it. So this game, it doesn't do much to me. I think Nacon always feel AA.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly.
So it's when they're doing something quite distinct and interesting, that's when AA I think shines. But when it just feels like a more budget version of a typical AAA game, like this feels like just largely like a first-person shooter for the most part.
It looks like Far Cry if they give them the RoboCop license.
Yeah.
It really does.
So it feels like... So I'm not that interested in the IP, and the gameplay looks a little generic. So I'm assuming it's going to be a decent game, but it's not. It doesn't have. It's not like particularly drawing me in.
Ooh, hard to please this week, you Richie.
I am.
You got sunstroke.
I feel like this year I've been hard to please, to be honest.
Well,
there's a lot of games that come out and go, yeah, it looks cool, but it's not for me.
Well, there we go then.
I think gaming goes in these sort of cycles where it's like a lower ebb for cycle of particular franchises I'm interested in, or styles of games I'm interested in. But we saw back in the Summer Games Fest how much stuff seemed to be like this, like gritty horror action-esque stuff. Yeah.
Well, if you want some
and then
more...
next year, everything will all be bright and vibrant as a counterpoint.
Probably. Well, a counterpoint to RoboCop for me, because I had it on the Sega Mega Drive, was always Terminator. I remember playing RoboCop versus Terminator, which was a thing to think back in the early 90s. This was a game that actually existed and was made. It was really good, actually. Part of the Nacon announcement, they also announced a Terminator survival project, not the final name, just a working title, will be coming to console and PC in the not too distant future. This is in development at Nacon Studio Milan, not Japan. It's a brand new project, totally unrelated to more linear Terminator games and adaptations we've seen over the decade. They showed the shortest of trailer showing the is it T800? Is that what the Terminator is? T800? Either way, you know the silver skeletal guy who messes stuff up. Arnold Schwarzenegger, absolutely stripped of his skin. That's what we're talking about. We're sure to expect plenty of kind of like shooty, crafty stuff. I don't know if it's first person or third person yet, but it's interesting to think that in 2022, Richie, we're still getting a RoboCop game, a Terminator game, Predator Hunting Grounds came out last year. There's alien games and all. It's like when these movies first came out, like little did anyone know that they would still be going in some shape or form. Many decades
You were talking about a RoboCop versus Terminator game from the same publisher. We're getting a RoboCop game and a Terminator game.
So you know what's coming out in 2025.
Yeah.
Or some DLC maybe. Nacon did actually publish the last Terminator game, Resistance, which was reviewed poorly, but I've heard it's quite fun actually if you just kind of accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
So they've clearly got some kind of deal with the franchise on that one. No doubt they're going to keep making movies. We'll no doubt do a reboot or something. I didn't actually see the last one, but I've heard from our friends it wasn't the best. So, less said about that. What we don't know though is if they are coming to Stadia. So pinch of salt, put a pin in it for now. But Nacon are a low change porting partner, and we're yet to see what their game is. So again, we will speculate and theorise to the high heavens because we've got to fill out an hour-long podcast show. Next story. Yes?
Before we move on, because this is not actually on the doc, I've just seen something. Is
this breaking news?
She-Hulk, not quite breaking. It's from a few days ago, but pretty much She-Hulk's been confirmed for Marvel's Avengers.
Was this the guy who was doing a live stream? The
voice actor actually accidentally announced it.
Well, it's good to know you've broke that news. I know that, so this week, they did the war table, the Avengers war table, where they didn't really announce much, but then they did a live stream, and I think it was one of the streamers just like casually name dropped that they've seen the content that has She-Hulk in it. And of course, She-Hulk Attorney at Law is due out on Disney Plus, I think next month. I think Miss Marvel wraps up this month and it's coming. Although, Richie, I will press you to look back through the Sounds of Stadia podcast show notes and refresh yourself that we covered this topic on the very show many, many months ago that the voice actress tweeted out saying...
Oh, see, I just saw an article dated like from the 8th of July.
Yeah, I think it's that. Again, it just goes to show we cover news before anybody else does.
Yeah.
I was listening to a PlayStation podcast this past week, and there was a guy on there saying about how The Quarry was a Stadia exclusive, and that he covered that and he broke it, and then all the journalist news websites picked up on it. And I messaged him and said, actually, if you watch our show from 3 months ago, we covered it before you. So it just shows. But again, we only cover it because we read out everything our community does as well out there. So yes, plenty of stories to cover. Speaking of our community out there, this one's from Brian Chappelle over at the Nerf Report, just kind of covering the story. NBA 2K23 did get a trailer announcement this week, and if you go to the website and you look into the Q&A where they announced the amazing Michael Jordan Special Cover Athlete Edition, if you look at the Q&A on the website, Richie, it lists PS5, Series X, PS4, PS4 Pro as an individual SKU for a change, Xbox One, Xbox Series S and X, Nintendo Switch, and Steam for PC. No Stadia. So that means this appears, as it stands again, we'll hold our breath because we know with Saints Row and everything else, we never quite know. It might quite appear that another sports franchise that has an annualization is not coming this year. What do we think? Where are we sitting on this one, Richie? Do you think we're going to see NBA 2K23? Of course, we've seen 2 previous entries every year.
I want to say yes. But until we get an announcement, going forward, I'm going to be no. But there again, I was wrong with Saints Row. I was actually, no, I don't think we're getting this for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Although I did start wavering at the end as more and more leaks were coming. But they went through the trouble to mention PS4 Pro on top of PlayStation 4, and they've went through the trouble to actually bring it to Switch.
Mm-hmm.
They even did it with Xbox One. They've got Xbox One, Xbox One X, and Xbox One S all listed independent of each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it feels like they've went quite comprehensive with this list.
Mm-hmm. But then again, we know that means nothing anyway. Again, we've echoed.
I hope it comes.
We've echoed it
really
many times on the show that these sports franchises they kind of really need to lock down every iteration. If we've said before, if FIFA doesn't come this year, that will be a huge blow. From both of us personally, because I've played more FIFA in the last few years on Stadia than ever before.
Yeah.
But it not coming will be just another sign that they're not getting the traction that they want.
FIFA's is both mine and your sports games. But there's people out there who, for them, it's NBA.
Yeah.
So this would be the exactly same blow to them as it would be to us not getting FIFA.
Yeah, it certainly would be.
So
I own one of the NBA games. I think the first one was like on a crazy deal for like $1.99 1 year, like back in 2020. And it was like, you know what? I've never really played basketball outside just us messing around or a PE lesson in school. But you know what? For that price, I want to buy it. Did I ever play it? Yeah. No, because I'm a gamer and I buy games and then never play them. That's what we do. Yeah. But yeah,
that's what adults do.
That's what adults do.
It's like that meme was like it's like that meme where they go, oh, when you're a kid you don't have the money to buy the games. When you're an adult you don't have the time to play them.
Yeah, is it Johnny Depp in that meme who sat there with a little kid on the bench?
I've seen various versions of it.
Various things. But we'll no doubt find more as the date comes around for NBA 2K, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it does come, along with everything else, all the games, all the DLC, all the AAAs. But you know what? It's been a great week. We've got plenty of news. A couple of tiny stories just to wrap up on. PUBG gets its new map next week. Deston, it's been teased for some time. It's going to bring new items, new gameplay, and a little bit of diversity in terms of the way the game plays. It's the hottest destination, the first new map to come to the Battle Royale since it went free to play back in February. It releases on July 13th. So when you're listening to this on Monday, it's out tomorrow. It's initially just for PC, unfortunately. So it's not out. Scratch that. Now I'm reading the article. It's not quite out yet. It's going to be on console the 21st of July. So for Stadia, Richie, do you want to take a guess? Do you think it's going to come with a PC release or the console release?
Console release, because if you remember, PUBG can disable mouse and keyboard support on Stadia.
Okay.
So I think they made a decision. I think at the time was to consolidate their player base. They made the decision to push Stadia into the console bracket.
Interesting. Well, we'll have to jump back into PUBG at some point. Deston includes a flooded downtown, a swamp, coastlines, one of the tallest skyscrapers in the game, so they're adding a bit of verticality to the game, or a bit more than just hiding up on a second-story building. Biggest building ever made, as well as lodges. It's the 9th map to include the airboat vehicle, a suite of new utility items and features. It also includes a new weapon, a 12-gauge shotgun, superior accuracy and range come with that shotgun. Keep an eye out for security keys, because they can unlock security doors that might be hiding higher tier loot. So they've got a bit of a World War Z, blow your charges off and such.
It feels very different in terms of the style of this map. It feels a bit more condensed, a bit more urban, rather than... Most PUBG maps I've played are quite sparse, quite spacious.
Yeah, middle of nowhere.
Where this feels like... I imagine it's going to be a bit more action-y focused, because you're going to be in tight corridors. It's not going to be that whole, I need to cross this massive cornfield, so let's stay low and take our time so no one sees us.
Yeah. Agreed.
But yeah,
and we always
cool.
enjoy PUBG, and yeah, you're right. It'll be nice to jump into a map that feels very, very different from what the norm is. So,
yeah.
Fill your boots maybe this week, maybe in the week after, depending on which version that they put out for Stadia. I'm sure some of our viewers and listeners out there know which version they're playing on. And final story for the week to round out the show. We missed it on last week's show due to the time of recording, but just a quick one. Clockwork Origins. I always want to say Orange because of the movie. Clockwork Origins, developers behind Elemental War 2, which came to the platform as a pro game as well. Not too far. It was a pro game, right? Elemental War 2?
I don't know.
I can't remember. Either way, it came out on Google Stadia a few months back, and we always wondered what was happening with the original Elemental War. Well, it looks like, according to the Clockwork Origins blog post, that their progress report for July, in fact, does state that they are looking to bring it to more platforms, meaning a native PS5 and an Xbox Series X version, as well as a Stadia version, which they aim to have for release set up for the end of August/early September. So this is the original tower defense game taking on a new and exciting multiplayer match, dozens of hours of single-player gameplay, in the crazy world with demons and monsters, as we know from Elemental War 2. Not really much more to say on that one, Richie. It's the original, so whether the original is better than the sequel, I'm not too sure. I've not checked out Elemental War, but puzzle, strategy, tower defense game, another game on the list. I'm sure people looking forward to that one. Did you check? Did we get Elemental War 2? Is that what we were checking?
That's what I've been trying to look at.
Did you claim it?
No, what it was is there was a tweet back in May. This was from Clockwork Origins addressing it. We got offered to launch. We got offered to launch into Pro, but it was too late. 2 weeks before the release, we would have needed to shift our launch date to May the 1st, which wasn't possible due to some contracts with other platforms. Might enter Pro later. Then we'll see. Right.
Okay. So yeah, I'm definitely.
So it's still up in the air. I think this is the game that should go pro because I think that's where you're going to get more people. With it being tower defense, I don't think I enjoy tower defense, but tower defense games are not the ones I'm going to go drop cash on. But if it's part of pro, I will jump in.
Yeah, I agree. But folks, that brings us to an end of this week's episode of Sounds of Stadia. All of your Stadia news rounded up for your listening or viewing pleasure. It's been a great show, Richard. We've had two AAA games in one show. Who'd have thought?
I know. But games are coming to Stadia. It's great news.
It is great news. If you haven't done so already, everybody, do give the video a like and subscribe and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the great content we bring you here at Helix Cloud Games. Like our live streams of... I was going to say Freddy Got Fingered then. It's not. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. That'd
be a very different game.
It would. Very funny movie, though, if you've not seen it before. Daddy, would you like some sausage, Richie? It's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
Do you think it's hold up today?
No, it's probably very not allowed in today's world. But yes, we have. We're going to go away and record an episode of CloudQuest as well. We've already recorded Talking the PS. Remind the fine folks out there, Richie, what we'll be discussing on this week's CloudQuest show.
We're talking about the games of the year so far. What we expect the game of the year by the end of the year for Stadia could be.
Indeed.
And other things of that sort of.
And other things. Game of the year watch. AAAs. Another great episode.
Basically, we're going to jump back in and see how is Stadia doing.
How's it faring in July of 2022? Indeed. And if you want that episode up to 6 days early, you can click join below if you're watching on YouTube. And from as little as 99p, you can support us, fine folks, a little bit more, bring you better quality content, more quality content, plus some exclusive perks and rewards. CloudQuest early. And this week, Talking the PS early as well. That's available right now. So if you're watching this on a Monday and you want your PlayStation fix and you don't want to wait for it to drop tomorrow on free feeds and podcast services, click join below now. You not only support us, but you get extra content as well. But that's been it, Richie. All the Stadia news. Been a terrific show. Thank you everyone who's tuned in for episode 146. You can find me at CyberChris2077 on socials. You can find Richie at
RichieC89.
You can follow everything else on Facebook, Twitter, Discord below at Helix Cloud Games. My name's been Chris.
And I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia. Have a great week, folks. And remember, play whatever makes you the happiest. Stay out of that sun and don't get burnt like Richie did. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's not fun. Bye.